Thank you, Abdullah. All right, so welcome. So let's start. I will just take half an hour to finish the session. So welcome everyone to a very quick session on how to face a job interview and what strategy to apply to answer any questions given by the interviewer to you. Right. So my name is Asif Ahmed. Some of you might already know me. Uh, if not, you can quickly look at my LinkedIn profile and stay connected with me. If you have any questions, even after the session, you can directly reach out to me on LinkedIn. Right. So basically, in this session, we will take roughly half an hour, and I will go through some interview giving strategies in the first 20 minutes, and in the last 5 to 10 minutes, we will have for answering questions that you might have. Right. So if you have any questions regarding interviews, I will try my best to find an answer for that. All right. So before I start the actual session, let me give you some disclaimers. So I'm not going to talk about any specific industry. What I'm going to share here will be applicable to any job interview from any industry. And the strategy I'm going to highlight mostly will be applicable if you are giving an interview for first world countries like Australia, New Zealand, UK, Canada, or US, right? Because interviewers from these countries will have similar mindset that I'm going to discuss in this session. And last but not the least, there is no formula to win any job interview. There are so many factors involved that need to be in your favor, including your luck. For example, you might did very well in your interview, but there might be someone else who even did better than you, right? So there are so many things involved to get the job offer. Anyways, so let's move on. So there are two type of interviews that you might go through mostly. It could be either technical interview or behavioral interviews. So technical interviews will be mostly focused on the job responsibilities, which will be different from industry to industry. So I'm not going to talk about this type of technical interviews in this session. My focus will be today on how to face behavioral interviews, uh, because whether you will be offered a job or not will be entirely depend on how well you perform in this round of interview, no matter what you have done in your technical round of interview. So behavioral interviews will be the ultimate decision maker, right? So basically, in this type of interviews, I mean, I'm talking about behavioral interviews. So in this type of interview, interviewer will give you a scenario, and then they will ask you what you did in the past in that scenario. The question in this interview will be very generic and can be applicable to any industry. So here you might be asked questions like, uh, tell me about a time when you worked well as a part of team. Or they can ask you, can you describe a situation where you had a conflict with your colleagues? Or they can ask you, give me an example of a time when you provided an exceptional customer service. Or tell me about a tough decision you had to make at work. So can you see, these are not technical questions at all. These are very generic questions, and this type of questions can be asked for any job interviews, right? So why this type of interview is so challenging, or why I'm talking about behavioral interviews only, right? First of all, you might struggle to recall specific incidents in the past that can showcase well your soft skill in that situation. Secondly, there's no right or wrong answer for this type of questions. So it will be hard to make the interviewer satisfied with your answer. And another reason could be why it's so challenging. You also need to make sure your answer is relevant to what you have been asked. and interviewer will ask some follow-up questions as well after your response, and you need to be consistent to your past response all the time, right? And last but most importantly, which is also the focus of the session today, your response should be structured and organized, right? And these are the some reasons why giving this type of interview might be a nightmare for you, right? So in this type of interviewer will basically wants to hear a story that is very organized, and you have to be very good at that. So you all might know storytelling is also one kind of skills that you need to be master at before you face any type of behavioral interviews. But not everyone can be good at storytelling, specifically if you work at a very technical field. So good news is there is a very well established framework that can help you to organize and structure your response in such a way that interviewer will love, right? And this framework is very established, and every big tech giants like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, they all use this framework to judge your response. And this framework is called STAR framework, right? So this is the framework that I'm going to talk about today. And using this framework, you can build any story that will be organized and structured. So what this structure framework all about? So basically each letter of this STAR framework will focus on a specific section of your response. So for example, S means situations, T means task, A means actions, and R means results, right? That means in your response to the questions, you have to first describe what was the situation that you were in. Then you have to tell the interviewer what task you have been given or assigned in that situation. And then you will go through what actions can have, and then you will go through what action you have taken to complete that task. And finally, and most importantly, you also need to mention at the end what was the result after all of the actions you have taken. So if you follow this, framework, you can organize or you can structure your response in a way that interviewer will like or want to hear, right? So let me see an example. So let's say interviewer has asked you these questions. So can you describe a situation where you had a conflict with your colleagues? So you can answer this using this STAR framework. For example, you can say, you have to describe the situation first. So what was the situation? You can say, at my previous job as a project manager, I was leading a team on a critical project with a tight deadline. One of the team members, John, was responsible for delivering key components of the project. So this is the situation you have to introduce first, and then you have to tell what was the problem and what task you have been given or assigned. So what was the task in that case? So your task, so you will say, my task was to ensure all the team members met their deadlines, that the project was completed on time. However, I noticed that John was consistently missing deadlines, which put the entire project at risk. So that task, so you have, this is your task that you need to sort out, right? So you have to deal with John. And to deal with John, what you did, so you decided to address the issue directly with John. You will say, firstly, I scheduled a one-to-one meeting with him to understand his perspective. During our meeting, I discovered that he was struggling with the workload and had some personal issues as well that was affecting his work. So I emphasized with his situation and suggested we work together to find a solution. And then we agreed to redistribute some of his work to someone else and set up a regular check-ins to monitor progress and provide support. So that's what you did to solve the problems that John is going through, right? And what was the result? So as a result of all of this effort, John was able to catch up on his task and meet the subsequent deadlines. the project was completed on time, and our work relationship improved significantly, right? So that is the way you should organize your response, right? So the question was very simple. And by the way, the interviewer will not ask you, will not tell you, give the response using STAR methodology. They will never use the word STAR in the interview, but you have to use this framework to organize your story. And interviewer loves to hear a story from you, not just an answer in 1 or 2 sentences, right? So next time, before you go for this type of interviews, make sure you have at least 10 stories in your bucket that will showcase your 10 different attitudes, right? And whenever you have been asked a question in this type of interview, you will just pick up one of the relevant story from your bucket. So here are the 10 stories that you need to have in your bucket. So what are the 10 stories? So first of all, you need a story that will demonstrate your leadership skill. So example could be, can you give an example of a time when you motivated your team to achieve a challenging goal? Right. So that is one question she will be asked. So that is one story. So you need to have this story ready before you jump into any interview. The second story you need to have that will demonstrate your customer service skill. For example, so the example question could be, describe a time when you had to handle a different customer, or describe a situation where you had to turn a negative customer experience into a positive response, right? So you need a story for this type of scenario as well. Number 3, you need to have a story that will showcase to the interviewer that you are very innovative. So example questions could be, tell me about a time when you came up with an innovative solution to a problem, right? And always use the STAR framework or method to structure your story. Number 4, you need a story that showcase to the interviewer that you are very quick learner. Example question could be, tell me about a time when you were assigned a project outside your expertise and how did you handle it? So all the questions should be answered using STAR method, right? So number 5, you need a story that will showcase that you deep dive in some of your work previously, right? Example question could be, tell me about a time when you had to deep dive into research to find the root cause of the problem. Number 6, so you need a story that will demonstrate that you think bigger. You can see the bigger picture. So example questions could be, tell me about a time when you identified a new opportunity that significantly impacted your organization, right? So number 7, you need to have a story that will also showcase that you were able to earn trust of your fellow colleagues in the past, obviously. So example questions could be, describe a time when you had to earn the trust of your team, or tell me about a time when you had to rebuild trust with someone after making a mistake. All right. Number 8, you need a story that showcases that you are very good at resource management, right? So examples questions could be, can you give an example of a time when you have maximized resource to achieve a goal more efficiently? So for example, you're working as a project manager, for example, and you did not have enough people for a project. Let's say you have just 3 people, and how did you manage those 3 resources to achieve the deadline, right? So this is an example or story you might need in your bucket. We're almost there. Number 9, so you need a story that also showcases that you had a past experience that you had to showcase that you deliver some results. So example questions could be, can you give an example of a time when you set a challenging goal and achieved it by any way? And last but not the least, you should have a story that showcases your disagreement and commitment. For example, interviewers can ask you, have you ever encountered resistance to your ideas or proposals? How did you address that resistance? So in a project or in a team meeting, you might present something, but your team members or other fellow colleagues disagree with you. So how you overcome those disagreements or how you stick to your point. So you need a story for that as well. So these are, if you have these 10 stories in your bucket, that means there's a chance some of the stories will be highlighted during your behavioral interview questions. All right. So, uh, so that's all about it. And at the end of the interview, there's one question that you will be asked for sure, and that is, do you have any questions for us? Right? And this will be an opportunity to show them you are really interested for the role and you are enthusiastic. And if you do not know what to ask, you can use these questions. You can have these questions in your hand, so that you can ask these questions to the interviewers at the end of the interview. So you could ask, yeah, and first of all, make sure none of those questions are covered previously. So if they are not covered yet, so you can ask, what would be my day like if I'm onboarded? You can also ask what are the software tools I'm going to use on regular basis. You can also ask what would be the next step if I pass this round of interview. Another favorite questions of mine, can you please tell me something about your work culture, right? Are you hybrid? Are you remote? Or do you want me to be in the office 5 days a week, right? How is my colleagues, right? Do you promote professional development? So this type of questions you can ask. You can also ask, can you please tell me what my team look like? How many team members? What are the expertise? So ask this type of questions at the end of the interviewer, and that will showcase that you are really interested for this type of for this role, and you are really enthusiastic, right? So these are the few things. These are the few things that I wanted to cover, and there are some final thoughts. So first of all, as I said, you need to have 10 stories in your bucket before you jump into an interview. But do not make a fake story. Why I'm saying do not make a fake story? Because if you make a fake story, interviewer will have some follow-up questions. And if you make a fake story, you will not be able to connect the dots, and your response will be inconsistent to what you have answered previously, right? The second thing is practice STAR framework as much as you can. So you can even you can practice in your workplace as well. So if your manager or supervisor asks you something, so explain those things with the help of STAR framework. And other way you can practice is try to go for interviews as many times as you can, even if you do not need a job, or if you do not want to switch a job, you can frequently go for job interviews. That will help you to increase your confidence. Number 3, do not jump into the response straight away. So whenever interviewers ask you a question, do not jump into the answer straight away. Take 30 seconds of pause to organize how you're gonna represent the response to the interviewer. And what other people do most of the time, they write a script for each story and read the story word by word from the script if those questions have been asked. The problem is, if you have a script and you just read word by word, it will not sound a natural thing. An interviewer will know that you are just reading a script, and it will not make any good impression. All right. So additional tips: use I, not we. For example, say, I have done it, I have fixed it, I implemented it. Do not say we have done it or we fixed it, because interviewer want to know more about you, not about your team. Maintain eye contact, keep smiling, do not look monotonous, show your enthusiasm, do not hesitate to ask questions to interviewers as well, and make sure your English is clear and loud. You do not need to be you do not need to sound you do not need to sound like a native English speaker, but whatever you're saying in English, it should be clear and loud. because there's no point to apply this STAR framework if the interviewers can't understand what you're saying, right? So these are some additional tips I will have for you. I'm nearly done. So there's a bonus slide for you. I'm going to go through the interview stages that Amazon conducts. So if you ever applied for Amazon jobs, specifically technical jobs, so there are certain stages that you need to go through. First of all, in stage 1, you will be shortlisted. So you will apply for the job and the recruiters will shortlist you. And if you're lucky enough, you will be shortlisted. And that is stage 1. In stage 2, in Amazon, I'm talking about Amazon only. So in stage 2, Amazon will send you an online assessment form, an online assessment to assess your some basic attitude. So the assessment will be mostly multiple choice questions. They can also cover some technical questions as well, but that's a very basic assessment, so nothing to worry about it. So you can pass this online assessment as well. So if you pass the online assessment, the next step would be they will ask you for a technical round of interview. So you will attend a technical round of interview. It will last for an hour. And if you're a really technical person, then you can easily pass this round of interview as well. For example, this is a job for software engineer. And if you're really good at software engineering concepts, you can easily pass the technical round of interviews. But the most important thing is, and whether you will be offered a job or not in Amazon will be entirely depend on stage 4. So in stage 4, what Amazon does, they will conduct 4 rounds of interviews, and each round of interviews will last for 1 hour, and each round of interview will focus on specific attitudes. So each round of interview will try, in each round of interviews, the interviewer will try to judge your 4 attitudes. So for example, in one interview, they are judging that they're trying to assess your leadership skill. In second round of interview, there will be questions to judge your customer service skills. In third round of interviews, they will assess how good you are at learning something very quickly. And maybe in the fourth round of interviews, they will ask many questions to assess how good you are at deep diving into certain problem, right? So that's how Amazon interviews look like, right? I'm not sure if you have any questions. So there are some common questions that people often ask. So number 1 questions, what if I do not have enough experience, right? So that's a very common problem. Or maybe we have gone through a bunch of questions, and some questions sounds like a managerial type of questions, right? So what if you do not have enough experience? So good news is, whatever stories you have in your bucket, it doesn't need to be from your professional experience. You can also pick up a story that might be from your personal life or maybe social life, right? So you can pick up stories from there, but the best thing is if you can pick up a story from your professional experience. Second thing, can I repeat the same story for another questions? So let's say you already tell a story that demonstrates your leadership skill. So can you or can I use the same story to demonstrate my customer service skill or to demonstrate my deep dive skill, right? Can you? Yes, you can, but I would say do not try to repeat a question. Do not try to repeat a story unless you do not have anything, because depending on your interviewers, they might need to hear a different story. The next thing is, it came twice. So these are some common questions that I think you might have. Any questions before I drop off?